when money is still in this economy. So for those who have the capital, I mean, look at the rush for portfolio investors, for instance. You know, I mean, look at the returns on treasury bills.
Oh, well,
a lot of them came in and they made a kill. These are things you cannot make elsewhere in the world.
Oh, well, that's offshore investors
Yes.
who perhaps get their funds at a lower interest rate.
Of course, that is the point I'm making.
What about the investors here? And then looking at all these indicators, we talk about the inflation rate, which of course came down in June. And then we're looking at the Naira exchange rate. We're looking at our foreign reserve and all that. And then how do you pair it with the decision by the Monetary Policy Committee to actually retain the benchmark interest rate at 12%?
You see, the central bank, the mandate of the central bank is price stability, to ensure price stability, and to also ensure financial system stability. Those are the two core mandates of the CBN. Although occasionally they veer out of that to address some developmental issues. For the CBN, what they are concerned about is to ensure that the single-digit inflation that we have is preserved. But when I read the report of the MPC, they expressed concern particularly about excess liquidity within the banking system. You know, and the much of this liquidity is not coming from the activities in the economy. It's coming more from the public sector.
Yeah.
So they are not liquidity that's derived from, you know, robust economic activities. And for as long as you have that excess liquidity, it poses a threat to inflation. It poses a threat to reserves. It poses a threat to exchange rate.
Perhaps that's the reason the CBN had to increase the CRR for
that is the reason.
Yeah.
That is the reason, in order to preserve this. But you see, again, looking at all these issues from the business point of view, if you have inflation at, currently I think it's about 8.4% as at June, we need to celebrate all these things very cautiously. Because it's like the phenomenon of peace in a society. You can have peace because everybody is happy. You can also have peace because the society has been turned into a graveyard. You know, that's what you call the peace of the graveyard. You could have inflation because all these measures are working. You could also have inflation, lower inflation because there's no activity. Because if you have the kind of unemployment that we have, if the major actors in the domestic economy have no access to credit, these things have a way of dampening economic activities generally. And if you don't have a robust activity environment economically, it could lead to a low inflation. So we have to make sure we balance all of these things. And that is why we feel that it is not advisable to over-concentrate on some of these variables, as the CBN has been doing. The CBN has an obsession for protecting the Naira exchange rate.
Curbing inflation.
And curbing inflation. On the face of it, it is good, but all these things, we need to define their limits. So that you don't create a situation where you are inhibiting domestic production and encouraging imports. I don't know whether you have had the experience. It is sometimes cheaper to buy things in Nigeria than to buy things abroad. Some things you see abroad, when you compare to Nigerian price, they are cheaper to buy here. I've seen people who came from Europe who are buying things from here back to Europe. And all these things are indicative of the structure of the economy and the character of our exchange rate. We have to be careful because if you have, I'm not saying we should devalue the Naira, but we have to allow the exchange to reflect the reality that is on the ground. so that we don't create an incentive to increase imports into this economy. Because increasingly, and with the kind of policy that is being pursued by the CBN, there is no way domestic investors will be able to compete with imported products. And the situation is deteriorating, it's getting worse. Now, with the recent tightening of monetary policy, the CRR that has been moved now to 50%.
50%, yeah.
What we are likely to see is that interest rates may even go up further, which means it will be more difficult for domestic production to be able to flourish. And what is an economy that doesn't produce? You have a huge domestic market, and you don't have a commensurate domestic production capacity. It's a major problem. And the CBN had argued, and I agree with them, that it is not only interest rates that will solve this problem. Fine. But the issue is that interest rate is part of the problem. So we cannot say because we have infrastructure problem, we have institutional problem and all of power problem and so on. They will not add to it the problem of high cost of fund. At least those who are operating within the difficult environment, we should make it as easy as possible for them to operate. I will not be surprised if very soon some of those who are owing the banks begin to receive a review of their interest rates. And the most worrying, disturbing part of all of this is that when you are in production, when you are in the real sector, it's like a trap. You can't exit easily. If you're a portfolio investor, you are investing in financial assets. If there is a problem, you can move from one asset to the other. But once you are in manufacturing, maybe you are in aluminum or you are in beverages, if there is a problem, you are stuck. You have to remain there because the assets are not liquid. It's not easy for you to exit. I hope you are following me. These are the challenges that those in the real sector are facing. Yeah. So we should go beyond all this theoretical, assessment of situation.
All right, quite interesting, wonderful analysis there. Now, the question now would be, how can the CBN strike a balance in all of this? In any case, before I get you to answer that, let's just take a short standing by. Thank you very much for sticking on.
Thank you.
Well, just before we went on break, I was trying to get, from your opinion, from the analysis you have given, what should be the striking balance in all of this?